Hello everybody, Jack Dangerous here with another video, and today I'm actually doing something a little different. I normally don't do news updates, but PlayStation, or rather Sony Corporation, has just released some news about the new PS5 controller, and I thought you guys would probably like to see this new information. I know I normally don't post videos on stuff like this, but today I just had to. So, this is on one of PlayStation's official websites, blog.us.playstation.com or PlayStation blog. This is one of Sony's official websites. The link can be seen up here and in the description down below. And this is news on the PS5 that was released just today as of this recording, as you can see down below. It is currently April 7th, 2020, the date of the release of this. And this says, introducing DualSense, the new wireless game controller for PS5. You get a nice glimpse into it here. And honestly, guys, the reason why this is so exciting for us is because we haven't had any information on what anything for the PS5 looks like up until this point. And this is the biggest drop that Sony has given us so far. Honestly, just from this picture right here, the PlayStation controller already looks awesome. See the first images of DualSense, which will bring the same sense of touch to PS5 gameplay. This was by, I can't pronounce that name, Hideaki Nishino? Well, he's the Senior Vice President of PlayStation, Platform Planning and Management. And it says here, we've reached an exciting milestone with PlayStation 5, as we are starting to ship our new controller in its final design to developers who are implementing its unique features into their games. But first, we wanted everyone in the PlayStation community to get a first look at DualSense wireless controller and hear our vision for how the new controller will captivate more of your senses as you interact with the virtual world of PS5 games. So basically, it's talking about how there's many new features along with the old features for the old PS4 controller that are going to be added in. Here it just talks about how the PS4 controller had new features that were never used before. And here is our first look at the design, and I gotta say, this is probably one of the most different controller designs for PS4 I've seen. And it's nice because to me it kind of seems a little bit close to classic. But you also have the PlayStation logo right here, and instead of the traditional circular button, it's the actual logo that's the button itself. I kind of like that. And you can see that there are some new buttons on the controller. This is a new button here. It's replacing the share button. We'll get more into that later. And obviously you have to have the traditional PlayStation buttons over here. The D-pad looking just as nice as ever. And the classic joysticks. After thoughtful consideration, we have decided to keep much of what gamers love about DualShock 4 intact. So that's what I just said, with all but one button being replaced, which will be talked about later. But everything else mostly stays the same, which I really like about this. While also adding new functionality and refining the design. Well, I mean, this is a completely new design for sure, but it almost looks like you've wrapped a PS4 controller with an Xbox controller and then added a light bar to it, which I kind of like. It looks like the PlayStation 4 controller and the Xbox One controller had a baby. So this provided us with an exciting challenge to design a new controller that builds off the current generation while taking into account the new features we were adding. For example, with adaptive triggers, we had to consider how the components would fit into the hardware without giving it a bulky feeling. Our design team worked closely with our hardware engineers to place the triggers and actuators. So basically, it's like the triggers and these buttons up here, L1 and R1. The triggers are supposed to be adaptive, but they also needed to find a way to redesign the controller, hence why it looks different, so then they could use the adaptive analog on the triggers. Because previously that had not been implemented in any designs of the PlayStation where it would adapt to the situation of the game, obviously until now. So they're saying they had to make more room, which is why the design is a little bit different, while they wanted to keep it the same size, which is why the design changed, but they also figured the design they came up with would probably... Okay. No more notifications, alright. While coming up with something that was new while being able to fit all of the components inside. So, let's see, the designers were then able to draw the lines of how the exterior of the controller would look and feel, with a challenge of making the controller feel smaller than it really looks. I mean, it really depends on what type of gamer you are. Some people are upset about it feeling smaller because they feel like the PlayStation controllers already feel a bit small. I'd say I hope that it feels more kind of the same as the DualShock 4 does, because I feel like the DualShock 4 was perfect in its size. So, I mean, this does look more comfortable than the DualShock 4, though. I have to say that much. It looks like it contorts into your hand a little bit better, which is really promising. So let's see. We also we changed the angle of the hand triggers, made some subtle updates to the grip, which is why the grip looks so different on the sides, is because that's one of the things they updated, is they actually made it more like an Xbox controller, because that's what I guess a lot of people have been wanting in a controller, because it's a more comfortable design and it fits in your hand a lot easier. And again, they did that by keeping a lot of the aspects of the PlayStation 4 controller. I'm surprised how much they were able to keep intact. And it looks like the buttons are going to be more easily accessible on this too, because it's more at an angle, which is where your fingers are naturally. So that's going to make for a lot easier and more comfortable gameplay. Personally, I like how they kept the analog sticks here. I was a little bit worried that they were going to go with the Xbox design and move the D-pad down here and the analog stick up here. But this is classic PlayStation. I love having the joysticks where they are. Can't go wrong with the PlayStation buttons. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people will probably get the versions, because eventually there will probably be versions that do look more like the Xbox controller. I personally prefer this design. Alright, so, let's see. We also took thoughtful consideration in ways to maintain a strong battery life for DualSense's rechargeable battery, and to lessen the weight of the controller as much as possible as new features were added. So basically, it's trying to add more battery life to it while making it so then the battery life lasts longer. Well, which is the same thing. You know what I'm trying to say. For the buttons, you'll notice there's no longer a share button, which I pointed out up here, as we had on the DualShock 4, but they want us to reiterate, don't worry, it is not going away. In fact, we have built upon, hang on, stupid cursor, the success of our industry-first share button to bring you a new create button feature. With create, we're once again pioneering new ways for players to create epic gameplay content to share with the world or to just enjoy for themselves. We'll have more details on this in the future as we get closer to launch. So basically they're trying to do more than what the share button did with this. They're trying to make it even more easily accessible, trying to add more features to it, trying to build upon what they already have while maintaining the same thing. So DualSense also adds a built-in microphone. So there's going to be a built-in microphone, so if, for instance, you don't have the money to get a headset, or you don't want to get a headset, or you, like I said, can't afford it, you can still use the mic that's on here and you'll be able to communicate with your friends. Of course, if you're planning to chat for a longer period, as they say here, it's good to have a headset handy, but they have the mic there as an alternative in case your mic's lost, you don't have one, you can't afford one, because that's one of the problems with the current PlayStation, is you have to get the PlayStation camera in order to use a mic, which can cause a lot of feedback when you're talking to people, and that's probably one of the things that they're trying to change here. Now, so this is the part that people don't like for some reason. Now, the colors. Traditionally, our base controllers have a single color. As you can see, we went a different direction this time around. So what they're going for this time is trying to do dual colors, as they're saying here, two-tone design. Additionally, they've changed the position of the light bar, as I've stated earlier, to be around the touchpad, which gives it a slightly larger look and feel, and actually does make the touchpad a little bit larger for games that use the touchpad, such as the Uncharted games and other games like that that might use it, because that was one of the features they wanted to use in the PS4. It wasn't used that much, but they keep wanting to build upon that, which I am all for. I like the idea of the touchpad. I wish more games used it. Like Spider-Man uses that center touchpad to get into the options. You press the touchpad, you get into the options stuff, so then you can change your suits and everything. And especially if the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with PS4, like they said in their specs announcement, then this is going to be really good for games like Spider-Man and other games like the Uncharted series if it's backwards compatible, because then you'll be able to use those touchpad features still, but now it's a bigger touchpad, and it looks to be in a more comfortable spot somehow. It looks more comfortable with it being larger. So the last paragraph of this is talking about, so they changed the position of the light bar. They already said that. In all, we went through several concepts and hundreds of mock-ups over the last 3 years before we settled on this final design. So they've been working on this design for a couple of years now, and that's why you have all of these concept arts that people released and everything, is because, for all we know, those probably were designs that they had come up with. Honestly, I think they took the right direction. I like the way the buttons look. I think, personally, that this design right here for the controller looks perfect. I like the transparent buttons. I like how actually, I even noticed the joysticks appear to have better grip on them than the PS4 ones do. Because the PS4 ones, if I'm not mistaken, do not have that cross pattern on the side. No, it's smooth on the side on the PS4. So there is more grip to the actual analog sticks on this. And it almost looks like they kept the same amount. Actually, these buttons look even more comfortable than they are on the PlayStation 4. They made actually an improvement on this. And you can see now the PlayStation button up close is no longer the circular button that you had on the PS4. If I just search up PS4 controller, you can see that this one has the traditional button on here. I happen to come across Amazon, not sponsored by the way, but you can see right in the center, right there where my cursor is on here and where it's zooming in over there, that it has a circular PlayStation button, but on this one, it doesn't. On this one, instead, it's the PlayStation logo, which I think is a cool design. Again, the cross pattern, so then it's easier. You have your mute button, you have your light bar around the touchpad. People were saying that they were getting rid of the light bar with this, but the thing is some games do use the light bar that were on the PS4, and they're trying to keep it backwards compatible with the PS4, and the only way to do that is by keeping a lot of the features, so the light bar cannot go for this controller if they want to keep it that way. It's sort of like the Pro controller. Right over here, not this one. Hang on. There's one, the PS4 Pro controller, if I can find it. PS4 Pro controller. This was the first one to have the light bar on the front. This one right here. This specific one right here. This PlayStation that's showing, you can see, oh, this is actually on the PlayStation website too. This was the first one to have the light bar in that sort of position, and PS5 is taking it a step further by having it around the actual touchpad instead of on it. Because on the touchpad, it's still difficult to see, it's difficult to notice, especially if you're looking at the screen, focusing on pressing the buttons. While this, it's in a more obvious spot, it's easier to see, and that's mainly what they were focusing on, is trying to enhance a lot of the features that were in the other PlayStation designs. I'll just jump into another image of this here. You can see all of the buttons, how they look slightly more comfortable. Honestly, I'm really digging the create button. I really dig the create button, and I also dig the idea of the triggers being placed where they are. I think this is perfect placement, because again, that's where your hands are going to be most of the time. And I want to also zoom in on this right here. USB-C port. That's also a huge innovation for Sony. This is the first PlayStation controller to use USB-C. Xbox did it first with the Xbox One, I believe, but now Sony's starting to catch up because that's starting to become the new common controller dock piece. Because the original PS4 controller and the Pro controller both use USB minis and not USB-Cs. But USB-Cs are becoming more popular and they're becoming more used. So they're going to have to start switching over to that. I can't get over that design. I also, again, love the idea of having the microphone on the controller itself, and you have the mute button right there in case you need to mute your mic for any reason. I personally will still use my headset. I've always been keen on using headsets. I don't know if there will be any feedback from the microphone if you have your TV loud. I don't know if the chat audio will come through the speakers here, or if it will come through your TV. I have no clue about that. That is stuff that we're going to have to wait to find out about. I can neither confirm nor deny any of the other features on the controller other than what they have said, because they said there's even more that they're going to be talking about. They said their goal with DualSense is to give gamers the feeling of being transported into the game world as soon as they open the box. Which was, if you recall, also one thing that they were trying to do with the regular PS4 and PS4 Pro controller. But now they're taking that a step further, and they're upgrading what they're doing, and they're doubling down on trying to make it even more of a realistic scenario. Makes you feel transported into the game. They want gamers to feel like the controller is an extension of themselves, and it's less that they're controlling it, and they want them to feel more like you are in the game rather than you're like controlling someone who is in the game. And lastly, for this last quote here that I'll read, we are thrilled about sharing the final look of this DualSense controller with our fans, and we can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it. I'd like to close with a message from SIE President and CEO Jim Ryan to the community. So, the quote here states, DualSense marks a radical departure from our previous controller offerings and captures just how strongly we feel about making a generational leap with the PS5. The new controller, along with many innovative features in PS5, will be transformative for games, continuing our mission at PlayStation to push the boundaries of play now and in the future. And in the future is one of the things they've been looking for the past few years, is a console that will last. They're trying to make PS5 one that will last years rather than... They want it to last a decade rather than half a decade. To the PlayStation community, I truly want to thank you for sharing this exciting journey as we head towards the PS5's launch in holiday 2020. Despite everything going on in the world right now, know from what this is saying, they are not postponing the release of the PS5. So, unless they were to confirm something between now when I post this video, or between now and then, don't worry about it. Most likely the PS5 is not going to have its release date changed. It will most likely stay in the November to the end of December range. We look forward to sharing more information about PS5, including the console design, in the coming months. So whether that means actual months or whether it means that they will be sharing it soon is a whole other conversation. You can see some of the comments down here. If you guys want to see the comments down below of this article, I will link the article itself in the description. And if you don't want to look in the description and just type it in, it's going to be at blog.us.playstation.com. So anyways, that's all I have for the news here today. Again, I normally don't do this type of thing. I'll probably do it when they release the design for the console, which I'm really looking forward to. This is a console I've been waiting for the past year. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you guys. But so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. And this is Jack Dangerous, signing off.